Good morning to you guys who are here live, but good day to everyone who is viewing this class online. Welcome to Y Combinator's second annual massively open online course, Startup School. So I'm Geoff Ralston. I'm a partner here at Y Combinator and one of the organizers of this year's Startup School. Starting today, we're hoping that YC's knowledge about entrepreneurship will help spur incredible innovation from all of you here and out there to create enormous value for the societies in which you live, for your friends, your families, your employees, and for yourselves. We're going to cover just a few things before we actually get started on the course, so I hope you'll bear with us. First, more companies than ever before asked to take part in Startup School this year. 27,000 companies from around the world asked to be part of it. Yeah, it's a number that kind of blows me away every time I think about it. 15,000 of those companies asked to actually participate in the class. And that's from over 100 countries and over 8,000 cities around the world. Really extraordinary numbers. Now, some of you may have heard that we had in fact intended to actually only allow about a quarter of those 15,000 to take the class, just because there are actual infrastructure limitations. Well, I don't know if you did hear or didn't hear, but there was a slight glitch in our process. And in the end, we accepted all 15,000 companies, give or take. We accepted everyone. It's 15,000, give or take. This means that this will be by far the largest class for startups that Y Combinator, or for that matter, anyone else has ever taught. So congratulations on being part of the biggest class. I don't know if that's great or not, but congratulations, you're still part of it. Let me just do a brief interlude about Startup School. Y Combinator began in 2005 by funding more companies simultaneously than had ever been done before, even though we only started with 8 companies in our first batch. Today, we fund over 300 companies every year and work with them in an intense 3-month program. But there are many, many more thousands who actually apply for each one of those spots. And we always knew that there was a possibility of our knowledge having greater reach. So that's why we started Startup School. To maximize how many companies we could reach with our knowledge, to get it to as many companies around the world, to maximize, and this is our stated goal as a company, the innovation in the world, because we think that that is almost always a really good thing. We'd like to find a way for every startup to succeed, and yes, there is self-interest here, because it would be awesome if one or more of you out there today was the next huge Y Combinator company. And why not, right? Talking about something that I think is absolutely vital to startup success, but although it's fundamental, is often somewhat overlooked. And that is really the invention, the creation of the story of your startup. This might sound obvious or basic, but it turns out that getting this right is actually non-intuitively important. And the reason it is so important is because startups are so hard. They're so very, very hard. It is almost certainly going to be the hardest, most difficult thing you will do in your professional career. And if you don't create a story, the right story, that you can tell yourself to keep going when things go wrong, you'll quit and your startup will die. So it's worthwhile. My YC partner, Aaron Harris, who's going to be giving a lecture later on in startup school, thinks and talks a lot about stories, and I'm indebted to him for a number of the ideas and what I'm about to say. So there are stories and there are stories, and the famous author Ian Forster maybe said it best many, many decades ago when he gave this example. So the king died and then the queen died is certainly a story. But it's not a very interesting story, is it? It's not a story that grabs you. It's not a story you necessarily care about. But the king died and then the queen died of grief. Well, there's something there. There's something to grab you. There's something human there. There's something in that story that seems to matter. And it turns out founders spend a lot of time telling stories. They tell stories about what they're doing. They tell stories about the future that they're trying to create. They tell stories originally maybe to their parents, to their friends, to their family, eventually to co-founders, potential customers, partners in the company, investors. But most of all, they need to tell a story that resonates with themselves. It's the story of your startup that will nourish you, that will keep you going through hard times and setbacks. It's a story that will persuade you to actually do this crazy thing. And it's a story that will maybe just, for those others, persuade them to join you on your journey. Think how crazy it is to convince someone else to follow you on such an uncertain path. It's not easy. So we actually spend a lot of time at YC helping people craft and sometimes even reimagine their stories. So I'd strongly recommend that you do these things during these 10 weeks. So start with your idea, and then, as Adora mentioned, create preferably one sentence or maybe 2-sentence explanation that is so easy to understand you could stop anyone in the street and they wouldn't just look at you blankly when you're telling them what you do. Create what we call your vertebrae, the framework of your story that captures really what it's all about, and that if you were to tell your story, you would expect hope that people might just remember, because they will not remember your entire story. And create a 2-minute demo day-like pitch. Doesn't have to be exactly 2 minutes. But create a pitch that captures the essence of your story and communicates those vertebrae in a memorable way. And last but not least, work with your co-founders so that you're on the same page. So that you all share the same story and can all relate that story, tell that story in a way that's compelling and believable. Because when you have it right, it will be believable. And equally importantly, it will be memorable, and it will, I hope, sustain you as you go through your path and your journey. So good luck to everyone. I hope that Startup School helps everyone realize the dream and the company you're creating has a ton of success.